Screen, that's great. Stuff here. Okay, welcome to EE1520, which is Introduction to Computer Science 2. My name is Felix Wu. I'm your instructor this semester. I do want to say that this is the first time, yeah, probably I should say this is the first time I ever teach anything at NCKU, especially at the undergraduate level. So I'm still learning a lot about the instructional system over here. Okay, by the way, this is an English class. I'm communicating primary in English. But if you have any question or anything you want to discuss with me, please feel free to do so and then use whatever language, okay? English or Mandarin, either way is fine, as I mentioned before. Okay, so there's a few things I should mention. My email address. Later, I will tell you that usually when I communicate with anybody at NCKU, I usually don't use email. I usually don't use email. I mean, some of you might know that recently my identity, not my email address, just somebody pretend to be me, send out a lot of email to the faculty and staff within NCKU. So my response to all of them saying that, hey, if you ever receive anything from me saying that, hey, please send me 5,000 Taiwanese dollar to purchase whatever, that's a scam, okay? So I will never do that. By the way, I will never do that in any communication, but usually I don't contact you with email directly from me. Maybe my TA might contact you. So my communication will be within the class. I will create a Discord group. Okay, we will be asking questions about Discord. I might use Piazza, which is another platform, but yeah, I mean, I feel Discord is a really nice platform, and I will explain to you why I prefer Discord. Also, as I mentioned, I have my YouTube channel listed in the slide in front. By the way, the slide itself will be online, and I will put all the information under the GitHub link. Okay, I have a GitHub link over there, which is public, github.com/sfelixbu/EE1520. So this class, we will be doing a lot of programming, and sometimes you will be doing programming in class. And therefore, I will usually upload a lot of stuff in GitHub. So you will download the PowerPoint slide, the document, and you will also download all the programming related resources that will be covered in class. So in the future, if you're interested, typically when I taught a similar course at UC Davis, so just introduce you a little bit. I taught 1 year at Columbia, 5 years at North Carolina State, and then 24 years at UC Davis. And I've taught this course probably more than 10 times. So when I did the teaching over there, I typically invite students to bring your own laptop. You can bring your own laptop, you can do some work while we're going through the material. I mean, the difference is that at UC Davis, we're quarter system, so it's only like 9 weeks. So I was so happy to know I have 18 weeks to go over. Okay, by the way, if I want to squeeze 18 weeks into 9 weeks, it's really create a lot of challenge for both instructor and the student. Okay, but now we have 18 weeks. I feel we have a lot of time. We can have a quality communication and deliver the instruction. Okay, so GitHub link, YouTube channel, and my email address and Discord I'm going to create. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about, by the way, I try to record all the lecture, all the office hour, all the discussion online. So for example, the first 3 weeks, I know many of you might actually switch classes, or some of the student, they might join the our course, like in 2 or 3 weeks, I never figure out exactly how that works. Okay, some of you contact me, email saying that can I do like in Chinese they say 加钱. I don't even know what I mean. Okay, so I'll try to learn, but I'll be happy to. So having said that, I'm pretty sure our attendance will be kind of up and down for the first 1 or 2 weeks. That's why for those who joined the class late, I typically record everything so they can actually catch up if they want to join us late. Okay. So this lecture, the first lecture, I'm going to talk more related to administrative stuff within the class, including my, as an instructor, what's my philosophy about programming. By the way, you will learn one thing from today is that this class might be somewhat different from a typical NCKU class because I want to do something experimental. And this class might be somewhat different from the other 2 sessions of Introduction to Computer Science, which I will explain. So we're kind of trying new thing and then see if this works better because we don't know. It might be much worse. Okay, so let me actually first talk about, wait a minute, can I switch to the next one? Some reason. Okay, now you can see that, right? Okay, see my slides. Okay, so I want to first talk about the syllabus. So we will spending the this semester to go over this 4 session of topic. Okay, the second part of my class, I will actually talk about this in detail, but let me just tell you what we're going to go over. The first session, about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we're going to talk about Unix operating system. Unix operating system, both as a user and also as a developer, to know a little bit inside of the operating system itself. Unavoidably, C++ or C is a very unique programming language that it can touch very deeply into your system. For example, as I understand, the other session or previous session about this course, usually students use the environment Visual C++, which is a Microsoft environment. But over here, we're going to use Unix. I believe I have a very strong and good reason for us to take this route, which I will explain a little bit, but I will spend some time to talk about Unix, including I don't assume you know anything about Unix. I don't assume you know anything about operating system. But my objective is to give you enough information that you will at least know how to use operating system from the basic level, and which is just enough for you to survive for the rest of the semester. And the second part, which is a focus on, of course, object-oriented programming, which is in this class, we focus more in C++. So I put it down there. We're going to use the tool called G++, which is the GNU tool, which is a standard from a Unix Linux environment instead of using Visual C++. Okay, so that's the second part. That will be the core part about this quarter. I'm probably going to spend 9 weeks or 10 weeks to talk about that. This will be really, really interesting. I feel C and C++ is a really, really hard language to learn, by the way. It's much harder than Python, for example. And it has a good reason or bad reason. The bad reason is that sometimes as a C++ programmer, you got exposed to something which is unnecessarily complicated. But on the other hand, that C and C++ is really a language that you can go deep into your system and gain some performance issue, gain some, for example, cybersecurity issue and those kind of things. Okay, so we will spend a lot of time to talk about that. I'm not going to go over that. And the third topic is definitely new. So I have been struggling to thinking about whether I want to include this. By the way, with 18 weeks instead of 9 weeks, I'm thinking what will be the topics that our students need to learn as early as possible, and which is very timely for our technology advancement at this moment. And obviously, the topic will be GPU programming. With the trend of AI advancement, so I feel GPU programming is something which is quite deviate from the traditional C++ programming. So this quarter, I'm going to, but this part, by the way, is going to be optional. Optional means that later I will talk about the grading policy. So optional means that I don't have a mandatory assignment for you to develop something which is under the topic of GPU program. So essentially, you can just totally neglect this part of instruction and still survive in this class well. But the thing is that if you're interested to learn this topic, that we will spend at least 2 weeks on this topic. Okay, and then we will have a final project. Okay, so I will explain final project in much more detail, not maybe after today, but is something also experimental. So if you take a look at this syllabus, there are 4 new things, 4 things that's experimental this semester. The first thing is we're going to switch from Visual C++ to Unix environment. And then you need to know a little bit about Unix operating system internal. Okay, and the second thing is that we're going to talk about GPU programming. That's a second thing. And the third thing is that we're going to put a lot of the course requirement emphasize precisely is going to be 40% of your grade is based on final project, which I will explain the grading policy in this slide. Okay, by the way, any question at this moment? Okay, you can ask me question anytime, okay? Okay, so let me tell you, this is my philosophy about teaching programming. Okay, this philosophy might not apply to other subjects in electrical engineering or anything outside of electrical engineering. But for programming or computer science, that I feel this is something I stick to it for a lot of years of teaching. So my number one objectives about teaching this course is try my best to bring you into the programming world. Okay, I focus more on your interest, that you will feel, oh, doing programming, this thing is interesting. It's interesting in a way that you have fun. By the way, I really seriously want to deliver something which is, even though UC Davis student never believe so. Okay, so whether you think programming is just something really, really painful, it's really you don't want to learn this. You're wondering why you're in this classroom. That's one extreme. I mean, the only reason you want to take this course is because you want to fulfill the requirement credit for programming and you want to get your degree. That's one extreme, okay? And I really want to deviate from that extreme. But the other extreme is that we need to try to bring you an environment you find, oh, programming is fun. You can actually learning some skill and then you will be able to build something running, and then you will see it running and then see the result. So that's my number one objectives. And by the way, I put this statement. This is from a professor from Brown University for information technology or for computer science. So it says, if you haven't written the program, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, this is very important. Okay, just for me, I have been doing programming for wait a minute, when my first C program was written in 1983, I believe. My first C++ program was written in 1987. So I've been written a lot of program in my career. And I realized this is always amazed me is I thought I know this topic, but unless I really develop a program and test it in front of me, I always have this surprise. I mean, I thought I have teach this topic for many times, and suddenly one student told me, hey, how about try this? And my response is not giving the answer directly to the student. So you will hear that this is my philosophy. In programming is a little bit different from any other thing. In any other thing, you know the theory, for example, calculus, that you know mathematics. But in programming, unfortunately, unless you really run the program, you won't learn. You don't know what you're talking about. So this is very important. So typically when the student asks me a question, I will actually pull out my computer, immediately write a small program to validate my answer. So my answer to you is always a concept and a proof of concept together. So that's why I feel this is the important life as a programmer that you have to do that. Okay, that's number one. Okay, number two, following this principle, this semester we won't have any written exam. We won't have any we won't have a written midterm and the final exam. Okay, this is only true for programming, in my opinion. It's not because I'm lazy. Okay, I don't want to make a final exam. All right, it's not because I'm lazy. Is I don't believe. I mean, as a programmer, I don't believe the written exam really test your ability to do program. So there's a lot of things you might be able to find out from the exam, even the online exam. Okay, even I know some of this is something I know in Mandarin we call 上机考. And I feel those kind of exam is just testing how fluent you are in knowing a concept, and then you can actually make it work in maybe 1 hour exam, which is, as a programming, that's not our number one goal. I just want to tell you, it's not our number one goal. So if one student can finish a program in 5 minutes, and the other programmer needs 5 hours, it doesn't mean that this 5-hour programmer is a worse programmer than this 5 minutes program. Because what happened is that the first programmer, he spent 5 minutes and then get it done, and he used the rest of the 4 hour and 55 minutes to play something else. But then his program might not have certain feature that's actually the 5-hour programmer came up. Okay, so in my mind, the exam is giving student too much time pressure, whether you can actually develop something under time pressure. I know that's also important, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you have a program and you know your own program. And you actually can go to Stack Overflow, or you can go to web, and you can go to other resources to see what the question was, and then decide in this process, you learn all the material in order to develop your program. I feel that capability, which is you need to take time to learn, to explore before you actually know a concept. I feel that process is more important to force any student to do the programmer in a limited amount of time. And so that's why I in programming, I feel I don't like to do I don't like to do a written exam, but instead I like to do what we call interactive grading. Okay, I don't know whether the word or the term interactive grading means to you. Okay, let me tell you that my version of interactive grading is that you develop your program and you bring your code into my office, either me or one of my TA, and then you show it to me what you have done. And you show to me how to run your program. and you share maybe some of the struggle and your difficulty or whatever. But then what do I mean by interactive grading? I'm going to ask you to do something, which I change the requirement. I say, hey, initially I'm calculating this as a GPS location, and it was a floating point. And I want to change your GPS location with a label. Say, hey, this is the NCKU. It's not just a GPS location. Later, you will see me doing a lot of this kind of changes. And then can you, based on a new requirement, make a change? Because I want to find out is whether you know your own code. And you can communicate with the other person when there's a new requirement, you actually have a way to figure out how to change your code for that new requirement and still working. And by the way, in this process, you can ask the instructor the question. The instructor, I don't know what you mean. What can I do? Or you can actually go to Stack Overflow, or you can use ChatGPT and to try to generate code. By the way, later I will tell you how ChatGPT, because they look at the GitHub, and it was very interesting because I always put my instruction material onto GitHub, and the GitHub was being used as the training for ChatGPT. And then essentially the ChatGPT learned something about what I'm doing, asking in the homework in a very specific way, not general, in a very specific way. So that's why it's called interactive grading. So interactive grading, we will have 4 homework assignment, 4 programming assignment. Together is 50%. I'll give you the detail. Okay, so I want to basically saying that what I'm putting in my slides, just there are 2 questions. I put it there, the second bullet, under the second bullet. Do you know your own code? Versus, do you know all the principles regarding programming? Those 2 questions. I don't even know the 2 questions. The first question is that there are 100 features about this programming language called C++. Do you know all of them? If you know 90% of them, you got 90%. If you know 40%, you got 40%. That's the second part of the question. Do you know all the features that we try to teach you? And the first question is, do you know your own code? Even though you only know 10 features, do you know your own code? Okay, so in my programming instruction philosophy, I focus on number 1. And I don't care about number 2, to be honest with you, because number 2, you always can learn later. So programming is something which how many years I have been teaching? I have been coding for C++. You probably can calculate almost 40 years. C is more than 40 years. And I always amazed about, I can never claim I know 100% feature, but I can claim I have the interest, try to learn new feature. And I feel that process is much more important. That will help you to be able to be a good programmer or be the one in electrical engineering discipline. You want to actually do some kind of programming, either as an undergraduate student or graduate student. You need to learn how to continue to grow as the situation change. Okay, so I want to tell you that is my focus. So if you come into my office to do interactive grading, I really hope that you know what you're doing in that program, even though your program only use 10% of the feature. But then I will grading whether you know your own code, meaning that I ask you to change. Can you actually change it with some interactive help? Okay. The other thing which is I want to, which I already, by the way, I already broke the rule about the third one. The third one is that I want you to learn a lot in class. In class meaning that you can bring your computer over here, or you can use, I can probably install a virtual machine on this computer, but I still need to talk to the staff to help me to do that. So while we're learning, you actually doing some programming. So I know you guys are very busy. You have to take so many other courses. So I don't expect you to spend lots of time outside of this class So I prefer for you to learn most of the stuff within the 3 hours that's allocated to us. Of course, I will ask you to do a lot outside the class as well, but I try to make sure that when you leave every single class, you already learn a lot, already learned the most of the material we cover in the class. So what I've been doing is that I'm not going to, I said I don't want to break, but I already broke the rule is that I supposed to give a short lecture, 10 minutes lecture, and then I will stop. And what I will stop is I will bring about 5 to 10 minutes break for us to do some activity related to what I just covered in the 10 minutes block. So typically a lecture is a 50 minutes, then I'll have 2 blocks or 3 blocks. So what you will see is that I will cover a particular concept in C++, and then I'm done. And then I want you to download a simple program from GitHub. And then you can actually try to compile it and try to run it while you're here. And then after everybody kind of doing some exercise, some of the exercise, it will be communicate with my computer as well. So you will see that it's not just individual programming. So we actually cover 3 different perspectives. I haven't get a chance. Number 1 is a traditional C++ programming. Number 2 is a GPU programming. So meaning that your program will run both CPU and GPU at the same time. And the third one is what I call distributed programming, which is this part I've been taught many times, is that your computer will be communicating with a Google server, or your computer will communicate with another student's computer. This is distributed computer. So compute programming over network using something we call remote procedure call, which is really powerful. For example, all the service we're using today, including YouTube, including Facebook, including Twitter, including Discord, they all based on a protocol concept called remote procedure call. And then we're going to learn that as well. Okay, so in class learning, that's what we want to do. So what did I put out here? Okay, so I do want to say that because I want you to learn within the class. So I want to have attendance. I want to make sure that you all attend the class. I mean, I put down the rule. I haven't started the attendance check, 点名. Okay, in Chinese it's called 点名, meaning that you have to come to every single class. I list the rule. I started to do that after the 3rd weeks, because the first 3 weeks, you guys are probably still up and down in terms of whether you want to take this class or not. But after 3rd class, you are allowed to miss. Let me actually see, what did I put down there? I remember I have a policy. I already have a policy. By the way, I will post my policy online as well. This is my policy. Okay, you're allowed to miss 8 hourly class. Okay, you're allowed to. So what I'm going to do is that if you miss 8 or 7, whatever, it's okay. You won't be penalized for the participation 10%. But if you miss more than that, I'm going to deduct 0.05% for each of the class you miss. I mean, the purpose is I want you to be in the class, and I want you to really do the exercise, because I feel for you to learn in the class is much more important than after you miss a few classes and you try to catch up with the video, you try to do something on your own. It's just not efficient and not effective. Okay, so I emphasize this a lot. You have to come to class. You can still miss a class. By the way, I remember I have a student who came to me saying that, oh, his grandma passed away, so he has to miss a class. And I said, how many grandma you have? Okay, this is like within a very short time, there are 2 times he or she probably forgot. He already talked to me once to miss the class. So okay, don't if you want to miss, you can miss 8 times. Okay, that will be cover a lot of your birthday party you want to attend, your family situation. Okay, and then you can catch up with the recording. Okay, but don't miss more than that. All right. Okay, the last part. Wait a minute. Sorry. Ah. The last part is about final project. I'm going to talk about that later. Okay, later means later. Okay, so I will have an office hour. So office hour, I will have a 2 regular office hour, but I will add more hours if I feel that we need more time to interact together. You can always try to arrange an appointment with me, and then we can do one-to-one. And I mentioned we're communications via either Discord or Line or our own tool. In fact, we're going to build our own tool to do the communication. And I want to emphasize that it's unlikely for me to communicate directly with you by email. We have a few graduate TA. Okay, so I'm going to go for the next one is the grading policy. Okay, I hope you can see that. You see that? Okay, great. Okay, so as I mentioned, participation is 10%. You can read from the screen. We will have 4 programming assignment. Let me just, okay, let me just do this. 4 programming assignment, and the final project is 40%. You will see that there was 10%, 10%, 5%, 5%, 10%. I will explain a little bit later. Okay. Let me explain right now about that situation. Okay, let me go over the plan. So as I mentioned, the first part is actually talk about the OS and the Unix environment, which I listed. If you see the topic say M, which means that M is mandatory. So I want you to make sure you learn. And if it's O is optional. Optional is depending on your situation, you might or might not need to learn that. Okay. So there's O, and there's O2, that means unless you're interested, if that's something which you like to work on your final project, then I'm going to cover O2. So you can see that 3 level, one is M, one mandatory, O is optional, and O2 is really optional. Okay. And that's the first one. And then I will cover a lot. Oh, by the way, this is important. You can see that during the first part, I have a programming assignment, which is dealing with a file. I kind of want to refresh your learning from your first semester, Introduction to Computer Science 1, and to talk about C programming, but try to access the file. Okay, so that's programming number 1, which will be 10%. All right. So for example, I can actually ask you an interactive grading. I say, hey, I have a huge movie, 4 terabyte. I mean, how do you break the file in a certain way that I can transfer over internet? By the way, I can tell you the story why I developed the initially come up with my break and my heal, because I was actually on a trip. I need to really deal with a large file, and I have to develop my own tool to deal with that situation. So that's kind of the spirit. So we're learning, we're programming because we have a need. And then we develop a tool, and then we test it and we use it. Okay, I can tell you the story about my break and my heal later. But that's the first program. And the second one is object-oriented programming. So this part is new thing. By the way, there's also one thing that's different is I actually started not with a C++ class. I started with JSON. How many of you have heard about the term JSON? Probably not. JavaScript object notation. Okay, this is a data representation. Essentially, all the information we're transferred on internet today, I would say there's only 2 formats. One format is XML, the other one is JSON. But after you pass the gateway of a big company such as Google or Facebook, everything behind that gateway is all JSON. So JSON is a dominating object-oriented paradigm to represent the object. And I realized to learning JSON is very important because it realized a lot of programming to a different level. Okay, so by the way, I taught about JSON. Students really hate me. by the way, it should be very simple, but later the same student came back to me 2 years after that. He said she really appreciate that she learned about this because when she conduct a job interview, they ask question all about JSON. So it's a short term, you might feel, that why do I need to learn this? But in the long term, you realize that the concept is so important. So programming number 2 is over here. It's at 15%. We cover a concept called inheritance, polymorphism, and casting. And we're converting from C++ to JSON. And the programming number 3, which is we talk about some of the class template, STL, and that topic, that's another 15%. So there are two, so we have 4 homeworks, so the number 1, number 2, number 3. And then the number 4 homework is we're extending a search engine and social media assistant in C++, which is, you will realize, I mean, if you want to have a search engine like a Google or Facebook, I can tell you that you don't want to implement, if you want to implement something which is only supporting maybe 100,000 users, it really only takes 3 months that you can actually build it. If you want to develop like what Facebook is doing, they're serving about 2 billion users. Of course, you need something a lot more engineered, but the concept is not that simple. So my objective is at that point, you actually will be given a source code for search engine and the social media assistant. And applying all the concept you have to learn in front of that, and that programming concept, that programming exercise for you to extend it. You take a system, you want to extend it. So by the way, I want to tell you, also, I should say that if you have a programming, if you have a program you develop from scratch, you started from the first line of the program, that's actually challenging. But if you understand something else program, which is pretty big program, maybe a few thousand lines of code. Okay, I want to give you just a scale of, if you want to talk about Linux operating system, not device driver, just the core, it's about a few million lines of code. You would talk about Windows operating system, Windows 11 or Windows 10, that's probably 100 million lines of code. So to understand somebody else's code and then try to modify, that's very, very difficult, challenging, but that's very practical. You're going to encounter that kind of situation a lot. So that's called programming in large. So I want you to, using this particular homework assignment number 4, for you to experience some of that. But again, we're not doing like a test, but you're going to do interactive grading on those things as well. Okay, and then you can see the rest of the project, which is the 40%. You can see that I'm going to have a final project idea brainstorming, which is you come to my office, we brainstorm together, we're going to record it. That process is 10%. Okay, and again, it's an interaction as well. Okay, at that time, everybody work independently. Everybody work independently. And then you're going to come up with a final project proposal, which is 10%. And then you're going to do a final project as an internal demo. Your demo to me, that's actually 5%. And at that time, so at this moment, everything is individual. Every student work independently. But then the last 15% revised proposal is, at that time, we're going to group student into team or project. So you might have 2 students to 4 students, and most 4 students, most likely is 2 to 3 students. You're going to work on the same team to integrate your idea and then come up with a revised proposal. So that's typical. Of course, we'll give you a lot of help about what you should do in terms of integrating. And then finally, I'm going to plan to have a final demo. So it means that you have your revised proposal and you get it to work. You have to get it to work because remember I said, if you have never written the program, you don't know what you're talking about. So whenever you have a project, I'm expecting you can do a demo in public. Okay, that's another 10%. Okay, that's the grading policy. Okay, I'm going to, because my time is running out, I'm going to go over this part. Wait a minute, where's my... Okay, so I want to find out any question about what I just said? Any question? If you don't have a question, I also want to listen from you, or maybe you can think about this to tell me next time. My question is, what's your expectation about this class? What's your learning motivation? Why you want to take this class beyond that this is a required course that you have to take it as an electrical engineer? By the way, is everybody here electrical engineering major? Do we have any other majors? Okay, okay. If you have it, let me know. Okay, you're very welcome if you're not electrical engineering major, and I'll be happy to talk to you about your individual concern. But also, I want you to think about what do you expect to learn from this class. Okay, I want to just communicate with you, make sure that your input. By the way, I'm very interested to know about what your thoughts about this class. And I also want to encourage you to speak up in the class. Okay, if you have any idea, don't worry about using whatever language you prefer, and just raise up your question. Anything about this class, you can ask anytime. Okay, all right. So I think our time is up. Is that right? Our time is up, right? Is the time 50 minutes or 1 hour? Even that, I don't know. At UC Davis, sometimes we have a 75 minutes class, sometimes we have 50 minutes class. So that's why I sometimes a little bit confused. So we have 50 minutes today, and we have 100 or 110 minutes on Thursday. Is that, I mean, let me ask you a question. If I have a 2 hour, do we take a 10 minutes break or not? You have a 10 minutes break within this two. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to finish recording, and then I will post the video